Hello everyone and welcome to the latest episode of the Movie Crusaders. My name is Sean Wasserkrug, and today we're going to be reviewing probably hands down, the most anticipated film of 2021, Marvel's Spider-Man No Way Home. Uh, Many of you guys probably know, if you guys have been watching the channel or know me personally, I love Spider-Man. He's probably number 2 on my favorite heroes alongside him and Wolverine. And I've always been a defender of his movies, even his bad ones, for the most part. I loved the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, not so much the third one, but the first two I definitely loved. The Amazing Spider-Man films, I felt kind of got a little wrongfully shit on. I didn't think they were as bad as a lot of people made them out to be. And then, of course, we got Tom Holland's Spider-Man, who as of now has done the most Spider-Man films. He is the Spider-Man. He is the Peter Parker. He has done the most films as the character. But this is the third standalone film of his, and this one, based around everything that's been going on with the trailers and the word of mouth and all the craziness that is going to be happening in this film, there was so much riding on this movie to work, and also so much that could go wrong in this film, whether it be too much stuff, expanding the world too far out of the reach of what a Spider-Man film could handle. We've seen movies like this where it's too big for its own good. Whereas you had another film that's relatively similar to this in a way, which was Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, that did everything perfectly, and no one really batted an eye at it because it was an animated film and it wasn't part of the MCU and no one really paid attention to it. It ended up being, hands down, probably one of the best Spider-Man films ever made. So going into this one, there was just so much riding on MCU and Tom Holland and everyone to make sure this thing worked. It's been about, I'd say, almost 2 hours since I've watched the film, and the reason why I waited so long to do the review here is I've been sitting and I've been marinating, watching, thinking back on the film, because I want to do this review justice, but there's so much I can't talk about. There's so much I can't say, I gotta think about how I'm going to say certain things as to not lead you guys down a spoiler path or say anything that might lead you one way or another. Now, granted, we are going to be doing a spoiler review with my Weekend Crusader co-star, Brian Michaels. We'll be shooting that probably in the next day or two, and that'll be out this weekend. So if you're waiting for a spoiler talk, we will, deep dive into this film with all the, special things that happen in it, then definitely check that one. This one's going to be non-spoiler. But yeah, I really need to sit and just kind of think about this film, because this is there's so much to unpack with this film. And like I said, I'm treading very softly. So if there's a lot of things I'm saying that sound very vague, or you're like, what do you mean by that? I'm trying my best to teeter around this thing to not spoil it. Bottom line, this is hands down the darkest and saddest Spider-Man film to date. Without question. It's also incredibly funny. And it's got some great action. It's got this is probably, to me, in terms of like what you want as a full superhero film, this has everything in it. You got great action sequences. You got great cast. You got some amazing standout performances. You've got heart. You've got what's the word I'm thinking about, with a lot of superhero films, especially MCU, very very early on. They would do these big things, destroy these big things, and then not have any consequences. This film has consequences up the ass. There's so much. Every decision that they are having to make in this film has massive consequences. And the one big thing, too, coming into this film, this is the first film, I think, since actually Endgame, that I was as excited for. B, first time I had a sold-out movie theater since Endgame. And C, had that buzz, that energy, that you knew the crowd was just salivating for every second of film that this movie had to offer. Just everyone in their seats, just waiting and at holded breath for what was gonna round every corner of every scene in this film. And this movie does not disappoint. In the theater I was in, there was cheers, there was gasps, there was crying. laughter, everything you could want in a movie theater experience. Not a single person was obnoxious or loud or had their phones out. Everyone was excited as I was watching this film, and it was one of the best movie going experiences I've had probably since Endgame. Um, this film, like I said, hands down the darkest Spider-Man film, hands down the saddest. There was at least 3, maybe 4 times during this film that I actually teared up, if not cried at certain moments of this film. Um, in terms of the story, the first half of the film, or first 40 minutes at least, is very, very heavily weighed on the events of the ending of the second film, which I was really happy with, because I was worried that they were going to kind of rush through that so they could get to this big story that they were trying to push in the trailer. But no, the first 40 minutes is a lot of the consequences and after effects of what Mysterio does at the end of Far From Home. And I love that they took the time to show that, yeah, being the friend of a superhero or being a superhero or knowing a superhero in this world when something happens like that, what happened at the end of Far From Home, has its consequences, will affect not only Peter Parker, but the people who know Peter Parker and their lives and what they do and all this kind of stuff. And Tom Holland, I'll say this, Tom Holland, Zendaya, and Jacob Batalon, all 3 of them put on, hands down, their best performances to date. Zendaya gets so much more to work with this film than she does in the previous 2 films. Ned, I'd say he probably has about equal amount as Homecoming, but those three together is what makes No Way Home as amazing as it is. Their chemistry together as friends, their emotions, their friendship is so strong in this film that any decision that is made throughout this film that has to do with those 3, you believe and you feel for. And it's all weighed on all 3 of these young actors and actresses' performances. Tom Holland, this is his film, bar none. This is the best Peter Parker film we've seen out of any of the Spider-Man films. Tom Holland knocks this out of the park. Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange. I mean, it's Benedict Cumberbatch. He's always going to bring it. I love the Doctor Strange atmosphere of this film. In terms of the rest of the cast, I'm only going to mention the ones we know from the trailer. Alfred Malia as Doc Ock. I mean, he's basically doing his Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2. They give him about as much as you can give him without him overtaking the film, but he has still the remnants of that great performance from Spider-Man 2. Jamie Foxx gets so much more to do than he did in Amazing Spider-Man 2, and they really do the character of Electro justice this time around. If you were not a fan of Electro in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 film, you will be a fan of Electro by the end of this film. The MVP in terms of the villain cast is definitely Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe comes back in Norman Osborn. He is still the fantastic villain that he was in the very first Spider-Man film, and he's even better than he was in the first Spider-Man film. If you could find a way to say that, Willem Dafoe is better in this film than he was in the first Spider-Man movie. In terms of, blanking on the other 2, Thomas Hayden Church as Sandman, and, oh god, who the hell plays Lizard? Ray's Ifans. I'm sorry I'm saying his name. You guys know who I'm talking about, but Lizard from Amazing Spider-Man. They probably get the least amount to work with, the least amount to do, but the problem is that you got so many characters. Not everyone's going to shine as much as some of the others. While they're on the film and while they're doing the thing, they're doing a good job. It's not like they aren't bad in their performances. They're doing their job. They're just not getting as much as Malia and Dafoe and Foxx and and the rest of the cast. But all the villains definitely play their parts and play their parts well. Marissa Tomei as Aunt May has some great moments in the film. Obviously, same thing with John Faribault as Happy Hogan. I'm kind of getting tongue-tied here because I'm trying to think before I say things, before I spell some stuff. I will say Tony Revolori as Flash really doesn't get a whole lot to do in this, but I'm okay with that. I was never the biggest Flash Thompson fan of the MCU. Nothing against Tony. I like him as the actor, but with the story that we're telling, Flash is not a focal point of this. The way this story is unfolded and the way we get to certain elements of the film, especially once we hit the second half of the film, it is amazing. And I really want to dive more into it. I really want to say more, but I just can't because I don't want to teeter too far into a point where I'm going to give something away. All I can say is the second half of this film, certain things happen, certain situations happen, and some of the performances, the emotions, the scenes themselves are perfect. They are amazing. I loved them. You were on the edge of your seat the whole way through. Like I said, you're gonna cheer, you're gonna cry, you're gonna laugh your butt off. There are so many great callbacks. There's so many great moments in this film, and a lot of the things that I've heard a lot of people complain about with the Tom Holland Spider-Man in the MCU, I think by end of film, you're going to be okay with. I think where we are left at the end of this film, because we know we're going to get a new trilogy with Tom Holland as Spider-Man, where we are left at the end of this film, I think is the best possible place we could be for Spider-Man. So anyone who's not been happy with the Tom Holland Spider-Man so far, I think by the end of this film, you guys are gonna kind of feel better about it. You guys can be more excited about what we're gonna get in the Spider-Man future. The possibilities are endless now. The mid-credit scene, I have never been more happy and ecstatic with what happened in the mid-credit scene. Like I said, we'll talk about it on the spoiler review. The end of credit scene, I'm going to tell you this guys right now. It's a trailer. It's a trailer, but it's a phenomenal trailer. I'm not going to tell you what it's about or who's in it or anything like that. It's a trailer, and it's great. So stick around through both credits. You will love both scenes. Bottom line comes down to Spider-Man No Way Home. It is probably the best Spider-Man film that has come out. Everything that you thought or worried about when bringing these franchises together, I think John Watts masterfully pulls everything together brilliantly. And it exceeded my expectations. I had such high expectations, and every worry, everything I had worried about this film going into it, they took care of. Yes, are there some things that I'm like, I wish they would have done it this way, or I wish they could have said this, this way? Absolutely, but you know what? No movie's perfect, and I'm not the director, I'm not the writer, so that's just more, I wish things happened this way, but it's nothing that they do in the movie that's detrimental to the film, that ruins the film by any means. But everyone brings their A game in this film. In terms of MCU, I'm still teetering back and forth between whether I like this more than Endgame or not, because just Endgame is just this, it's Endgame, and it has this culmination of 20 plus films, whereas this is the culmination of all the Spider-Man films. Scratch that, not Spider-Verse. I'm going to tell you this right now. There is no connection to Spider-Verse, so don't think there is. But in terms of the other Spider-Man films, this is a culmination of all the Spider-Man films. So like Endgame, this hits everything just the way you want to hit it. This is a fantastic film. I cannot wait to see it again, over and over and over again, and rewatch certain scenes and rewatch certain performances over and over again. This is definitely one of the best MCU films to date. This is definitely probably the best Spider-Man film to date. Definitely the best Tom Holland performance and Zendaya performance that I've seen to date. There's so much more I want to say. There's so much more I want to dive into. I just can't do it here. So I'm going to just go ahead and stop this before I go too far and say something I don't want to say. In terms of recommendations, I absolutely go see Spider-Man No Way Home. There's no reason for you not to see it. If you're a Spider-Man fan, an MCU fan, a fan of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, or the Amazing Spider-Man franchise, there is no reason for you not to check this film out. Going to my overall score, I'm giving Spider-Man No Way Home a 96%. It is definitely one of the best films of the year, and all the anticipation, all this film is well warranted, well earned, and does everything you want to in a film. And I could not be more prouder of what the MCU and John Watts and Tom Holland the list goes on and on and on, did with this film. Definitely go out of your way to check this out and see it as many times as you want, because I can't wait to go see it again. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you guys did, go ahead and hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos that pop up on the Movie Crusaders. And of course, remember to follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Like I said, myself and Brian Michaels, we will be back to do a spoiler review of Spider-Man No Way Home. We're going to talk about everything. Anything that you guys wanted to know about this film, we are going to dive bomb into this movie. It's probably going to be an hour to 2 hour long spoiler review because there's so much to talk about. But we will have that shot sometime this weekend, and it will drop sometime this weekend, so be on the lookout for that. In terms of other reviews, I mean, we're heading towards Christmas. There's a lot of movies coming out. I'm trying to watch as much as I can. I might just do one big review video where I'm reviewing like 10 movies in one video, because it takes a lot of time to do individual videos for every movie. But we will also be back next week, Brian and myself, for the Weekend Crusaders. It is our end of year finale, because we're not doing a New Year's Eve episode. So this is going to be our last Weekend Crusaders of the year, where we'll talk about 5 movies that come out during this week or that weekend in movie history. Here is the preview for tonight's episode that will drop here very, very shortly. I hope you guys check that out and go see Spider-Man. You will not be disappointed. And until next time, in case I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Movie Crusaders.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.